Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sivadas Madhavan, Associate Professor of English. Today I am going to talk about the Indo-European language group. It is to trace the position of English language in the family of languages. The other day we have seen the origin of language, and today we are going to see the Indo-European language. Indo-European language is one of the language groups. There were so many languages, so many groups of languages, or so many families of languages were there. And it happened because people were leading a nomadic life in the beginning, and they were not settled in any particular place, and they were using the language among themselves. And since they were leading a tribal life, all the tribes had their own languages. And it developed into different languages. That is a common assumption of philologists. The comparative philology leads to that conclusion that people had different languages from a common ancestor, because the languages have some common features shared by different languages. That is because they had a common ancestor. Actually, religious people may not agree with that. In Bible, there is the story of the Tower of Babel. It's actually the myth that the religious people believe. That means, in the beginning, there was only one language for the people of the descendants of Noah, and they started using the same language by all the people, but God became jealous of them because they were trying to build a very huge tower, and God cursed them, and they forgot the language, or their language became unintelligible to others. That means what one person says cannot be understood by the other person. So they spread into different areas, and they dropped the idea of building the tower. And these languages used by these common people became different languages. That is to split them, to make the people separate from each other. So that is their belief, and it's only a myth, and we don't have to take it as scientific. It is not scientific at all. The scientific idea about the position of English is that English belongs to the Indo-European family. Indo-European family, or the Indo-European language, was used by a group of nomadic people around Black Sea and the steppes of Siberia, and they were nomadic. It was 3000 to 3500 BC. Between 3000 and 3500 BC, they were using Indo-European language, and that was by the nomadic people. And they were moving from place to place, and later on they again got into different groups, and by 2000 AD they began to have 8 different languages. And these 8 different languages are Eastern Sanskrit, Armenian, Greek, Albanian, Italic, Balto-Slavonic, Primitive Germanic, and Celtic. So out of these 8, we are interested in Primitive Germanic. From Primitive Germanic, again there were subdivisions called West Germanic, Gothic, Scandinavian, etc. And out of these 3, we take West Germanic because English belongs to that. And from West Germanic, the Anglo-Saxon, and from Anglo-Saxon, Middle English, and from Middle English, Modern English. So in the slide that I prepared, you can see the circled areas. On the top, it is Indo-European, that is the title, Indo-European language, and it has 8 different groups. One of them is Primitive Germanic, and from Primitive Germanic, it comes down to West Germanic, and from West Germanic, it comes to Anglo-Saxon, and from Anglo-Saxon, it comes to Middle English, and from Middle English, it comes to Modern English. So Indo-Germanic was 3000 to 3500 BC. That means almost more than 5000 years old. And then comes the 8 groups, the group of primitive Germanic, that is 2000 BC. 2000 BC means almost 4000 years ago. 4000 years ago, there were 8 groups. One of them was primitive Germanic. And from primitive Germanic, again it was divided into 3, that is West Germanic, Gothic and Scandinavian. And out of these 3, from West Germanic, we have Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon is the Old English. Anglo-Saxon is the language spoken by Anglo-Saxons and Jutes. The 3 tribes came from Germany and settled in Great Britain. So until then, there were Celts living in Britain, and Celts were driven away by the Roman invaders, and they were using their language. And to that area, by about 450, these tribes came, Anglo-Saxons and Jutes. The mixture of the languages used by Anglo-Saxons and Jutes is called Anglo-Saxon or Old English. That is the ancestor of English. That is the grandfather of English. After that, it was from 450 to 1066, that is up to 11th century. After that, from 1066 to 1500, it is called Middle English. And 1066 is the year in which the Normans conquered England. The Normans means the French people. French people conquered England and they started using their language. French became the official language along with English. English was the language of the ordinary people. French was the official language, and Latin was the religious language in those days. And later, in 1500, they started modern English. So the French influence was gone. Actually, the influence of all the other languages were there. And all these influences created modern English. So 1500 onwards, we call it modern English. Actually, the real modern English is not the English of 1500. It is after 17th century that people started using the so-called modern English. For example, Shakespeare, who died in 1616, has written the dramas in English, but nowadays it is not easy for a common person to read it and understand because of the archaic words and the influence of the Middle English or the languages used by the ancient people. So modern English is legible to us from 17th century onwards. So that is the present day English. So English belongs to the Indo-European family, Indo-European language family. And it is clear that some similarities we can trace back to the old languages or the languages which were broken away from the other languages. An example, in German language, brother means brother. Brother is brother in Sanskrit, and brother is brother in Malayalam also. And so many other similar words are there. For example, 2 is do in Hindi, and 10 is thus in Hindi. So many similarities you can see. And there are some changes also. Pida is father. Father and Pida, the connection between father and Pida, mother and Mada. So this type of similarities you can see because of the common ancestor. So different languages follow the qualities of the ancient languages. It is because the new language was developed after so many years by the people who spoke it and used it and modified it. So that's how English developed. So that's all about Indo-European language. And with another group, with another topic, I will come next time. Until then, goodbye.